welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. The first 5 verses of the 121st Psalm read, I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. Old Testament law required each Israelite family to attend certain annual religious events at Jerusalem. How exciting for everyone. Youngsters on their first trip, mothers packing up pretty things to show friends, fathers saddling up the best animals. There'd be little bands setting out from every village that gradually became great caravans, traveling from all parts of the nation as their routes merged. There would be campfires in the evenings, sly courtships, songs and music. God meant the feasts to be occasions of great rejoicing, a time of renewing acquaintances, hearing news from distant parts of the nation, participating in well-conducted worship services at the great temple, being swept up in a great patriotic surge of enthusiasm at the blessing of being one of God's chosen people. As you would expect, these yearly journeys fostered traditions. One of them was singing marching psalms fitting the occasion. There are 14 of them, from Psalm 120 to Psalm 134. And they have been called the Psalms of Ascent because of going up to Jerusalem. The city is near the peak of one of a long chain of mountains. Those approaching it from the east would first go up the Judean mountains, from where Jerusalem would be in view atop the next mountain range across the valley of the Jordan. How the folks must have rejoiced when the first hints of the city appeared, with all that it promised of friendship, fellowship, worship, and peace with God. And so they sang, I will look unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. For God did indeed plan to use Jerusalem with all that it stood for to bless his people. But the next part of the verse expands the vision and strikes to its true and greatest significance. After all, hills and mountains are only God's creation, just like you and me. They can never be more than the tools, the channels God uses to pour out on us his heavenly benefits. And so the very next part of the passage emphasizes where lies the true benevolence that hopes to every human soul. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. This psalm was meant to be not only the rejoicing observation and statement of purpose of a believer, but also to have covenant language from God. In its 8 short verses, the words keep, keeper, keepeth appear 6 times. The existence of the great city in the same place, whether the year had brought plentiful harvest or sparse, whether there had been illness or the unending cycle of older folk being laid to their rest and no longer in this journey, whether there had been peace or war, stood as a solid testimony of God's protection and love to his chosen people. Have you ever sprained your ankle? The annual trek to Jerusalem involved lots of walking. You can be sure there were rocks aplenty in the pathway. There were gullies to cross, dusty, barren places in the road, streams to wade. Having just made that trip, we could understand why an assurance from God that he would guard the traveler's footsteps would hold meaning to those long-ago pilgrims. But the words have more meaning than just a stubbed toe. At the end of the festival, people would be going home, and there would be decisions to make. How do I train my children, each of them so uniquely different from his siblings? Who should be our village elders? Who should marry whom? Should I plant the lower 40 acres to barley, or is it time to plant it into a vineyard? Thank God, this psalm is not just for those long-ago Israelites. God has a city, a new Jerusalem, and he invites us to travel to it with everlasting singing on our heads. He wants to be our help beyond the church where we worship, which is also only a tool to be his great person. And he wants to keep our feet in the right course until heaven's gates close behind us.
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.